I'm here today to talk about not women empowerment. I'll start out by a reason why. What does empowerment actually mean? That was one of the first questions I actually had. And there is an inherent upmanship in the word empower, isn't it? When we talk about empowering somebody or empowering something, it means that we are assuming already that we are in a much more powerful position and the other person in front of us is weak. So one of the conversations that we are not going to have today is about women empowerment. So I hope you will indulge me in that for the next 10 minutes. So coming down to the conversations. So why would you or me or anybody need someone else to empower us? Why would we afford somebody else the power to give us power? You have the power within, right? We all have power within, and it is gender agnostic. And if you look at science, men and women have the same energy cruising through us. We all have the same energy, but of course, it is used in different ways, and it is for different uses. And the fundamental energy, though, it's the same. So, in my view, empowerment is actually self-defined. For me, it is, if I were to define, it is about giving a woman a chance to decide what she wants to do for herself and going for it. And the second thing, which is most important, is that when we make a choice, it is taking a choice, making a choice, doing something without tom-tomming about it. It is not needed that we go around saying that I did it. No, it is not needed. You are doing it for yourself. And the second thing you need to be really, really clear about is that we don't need an applause from everybody. We don't need a validation from the society. We just need to be able to answer to only one person every day. And that person is, if I may ask, the person you see in the mirror every single day. If you are able to wake up in the morning and ask yourself, why are we doing this? And if you find an answer which actually says, because you want to do it and you deserve to do it, go for the day. And if the end of the day, what did you learn is a question you need to ask for yourself. And if you are able to answer it by saying, yes, I achieved this today, that is all you need. That 24-hour gap, I don't know how much you guys sleep, but my sleep hours are only 3 to 4 hours. I need to work on it. But my 21-hour day starts with a why and ends with what did I achieve today. So now coming down to these conversations that I'm having, I'm acutely aware because we had Dr. Saab speak up before about the access to health, how it is a very important right for a lot of girls to be empowered. And we also heard from Shobna Garu about the kind of skilling that is needed for women to be empowered. I realize and I'm very acutely aware that I'm speaking from a position of privilege of being raised in a family where gender was not a decider for me to achieve my ambitions. I was never asked why I was doing something. I was only asked when am I starting to do it. I'm also very fortunate to be part of a family where every simple success is celebrated. You know, coming home from work early is a celebration for us. I'm very fortunate to do that. And every single achievement of mine or my siblings is always celebrated as ourselves. I'm celebrated as Deepti. I'm never celebrated as Deepti in spite of being a girl. Deepti being a mother. I'm never celebrated like that. I'm celebrated as Deepti the individual. I am deeply very aware that, you know, I'm speaking from a position of privilege. And I would like to request all of us savor the same kind of privilege which has actually brought us all to be sitting in this room. So when you talk about women or women empowerment or any kind of conversations, we always talk about the challenges, right? We always talk about the top 10 challenges that women face, right? We talk about, you know, mindsets, gender bias, etc., etc., etc. But we never take a step back and appreciate all the opportunities we've had. The reason I say this, numerous challenges that our grandmoms, our aunts, our mums had to go through. They actually made sure, you know, my grandmom, I'm pretty sure she never actually knew that, you know, which college my mother or my uncles were going to. But she only knew one thing. She wanted her children to be educated. But she never stepped out of the kitchen. She only told my grandfather, I want my kids to be educated. So I'm very happy to have a mother who is actually a postgraduate. Of course, she never worked because she felt too cool about it. But, you know, my mom actually then decided, I want my daughter and my son to have the same kind of education. She actually took the better decisions, right? So what I'm trying to get at is the opportunities that my grandmother afforded my mother and the opportunities that my mother has afforded to me is going to be something that I would use as a platform, and I want to talk about opportunities all of us have. Challenges are the past, right? That is something that a lot of our previous generations have already done. But a generation such as yourself should talk about opportunities that are there, and the world is ready for you. But let us talk about one simple thing. Are you guys ready for it? Are you ready to take the challenges or opportunities? Right. So to actually take the opportunities and do it better, there are a few things that I'm always asked in my current role. I head something for the government and I head something for women, right? A lot of times I'm often asked, how do I become a strong leader? How do I become a strong entrepreneur? And I only talk about certain things that I have used as my guiding principles. And I would like to share a few of them with you today. The first thing I would like to really talk about is leading self. Do you know what leading self means? One of the hardest things in the world to do is actually leading yourself. The reason is, it is not as simple as you would think. You think that, being a leader is as easy as it sounds. No, it is a lot about self-discipline. It is a lot about dedication. It is a lot about understanding the future you. And it is a lot about the discipline you need to follow to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. Number one, leading self is one of the most important guiding principles, because it needs a lot of discipline, it needs a lot of research, it also needs a lot of integrity to be able to learn, grow, and become a leader who can stand up for somebody else so that they too can grow to be leaders. The second thing we can actually talk about is talking about brilliant communication skills. You may be the smartest person in the room, but if you're not able to articulate yourself well, what is the purpose of this knowledge? So please work on your communication skills. Make sure that you're able to put your points across succinctly. The reason I say this is that as a leader, when you put a point across, there is no hit or miss, there is only a hit. So you have to work on making sure that your message is articulately worded, it is put forth in the right manner. So all of you, a simple example of that is a brilliant faculty that we have here, right? A lot of times when you're in school, when you're growing up, when you're in college right now, you might actually always enjoy one subject, which may not be the coolest subject, but you enjoy it because of the brilliant communication skills of the faculty who's able to communicate to you. It's not just inculcates the knowledge of that subject in you, it also creates a joy of learning. And that is what a leader needs. The leader needs to be able to make sure that the team he is actually guiding, he or she is guiding, is following them for the vision that they all believe in, not because of the order. Okay, the second thing is communication skills. The third important thing, and by the way, brilliant communication skills, I'm still working on it, so I can't give you many examples on that. The third thing I would like to highlight is, please do not ignore fears. The reason I say that is because, let's say you're scared of one thing. Most of the audience here, actually most of the audience is super young. So if you start, if you start fearing things, you will say, oh, I'm scared of this, I'll not do it. Example, I'm really scared of public speaking. I'm really, really scared of public speaking. But how do I counter it? I counter it by practicing every day and facing my fear. Because I realized once we start having fears and we start not doing things, over time we become a group of people, or we become a person who has not really done a lot of things because we are scared. So one of the biggest suggestions I would like to give you guys is, make sure you understand your fears and make sure you overcome them as well. If you're scared of heights, I'm really scared of heights also. And when I was in the US, the first thing I did is I went for a skydiving thing. It really freaked me out, but now I can't say I'm very comfortable with heights, but I'm not scared of heights. I'm also not very comfortable with not having ground beneath me. So I actually started learning how to skate. I also started a little bit of gliding also. The reason I'm telling you this is not because I want to showcase that I have too many hobbies, but it's more in terms of saying that, the more you overcome your fears, the more fearless you become, not just in your personal life, but also in your everything that you set up for yourself. And the next thing is taking conflict head on. And this is something that I would like to really highlight. It is a very Indian thing, right? When we see a conflict, except when it is a street fight or some accident that we really need to be spectators for, we run away from conflict. If we have an uncomfortable situation at work, if we have an uncomfortable situation in the office, the first thing we do, or your mother or your dad or anybody would say is, oh my God, just leave it. But I request you to please not run away from conflict. And I don't mean that you please get into fights. What I mean is, please sit across a table and have a conversation. One of the simplest ways of overcoming conflict or actually solving a situation is sitting across a table. The reason I say this is because the more you kind of take this kind of an approach, you actually understand conflict is not created due to personal issues. It is created due to the different perspectives that people actually have. If you understand the other person's perspective, there is nothing which is going to prevent you from being a team player and a brilliant leader as well. The next thing I would like to really talk about is, and again, this is a very convenient thing that we always look at. We expect everything to be perfect so that we can just step in, waltz in, and become the stars of the show. But I'll ask you one question. If everything is perfect, why are you needed? Isn't it? So don't expect a perfect circumstance before you step into a situation. The reason I say this is because if everything is perfect, how will you prove yourself? So please volunteer for things which seem very fearful for you. And how many of you have actually ever taken up a job which is uncomfortable for you or out of town or whatever else, right? You would not. You always want to say that, I need a 9 to 5 thing. I just want to do this certain XYZ thing and be out of it. So please don't do that. Don't expect perfect circumstances, because only when you take these uncomfortable situations will you learn and grow and thrive. And will you prove yourself to be so much better than so many other people who do not take initiative. And the next thing I'd like to really talk about, and something that I would like to highlight, the fact is, don't wait for opportunities to come your way. See, one of the easiest things in life is always to say, I never got a chance to do it. But please understand, chances don't come. So I'll tell you a small snippet of my own life. So I don't know how many of you know about Hyderabad, or I don't know what the story of Tamil Nadu is. In Hyderabad, when I was going to engineering, if you clear your engineering degree without any backlogs, the day after you graduate, you're supposed to go to America. And you're never supposed to come back, isn't it? So I was actually doing the same thing. I followed the same pattern. I actually wanted to go to Australia, but I told my milk guy, his name is Jagdish. I asked him, so Jagdish, I'm thinking, should I go to Australia or America? He said, Australia, nobody knows, Amma. America it is. So that is how my entire life changed because of Jagdish. He still is the milkman in our house, my parents' house, by the way. But what I'm trying to get at is, I went to America. It was brilliant, right? Whatever you see in TV and whatever else, it is all the thing. But the point is, I also am part of a state called Telangana. It is a new state. It was born only in 2014. And I was part of the tiny movement of the state, which is only 60 years long. But when the minister of our state was visiting the US, I actually was giving him a lot of advice on how electronics should be promoted in our state, on how things should be done, how policy should be written. And the minister just looked at me for 2 minutes and he said, a lot of NRIs talk because talk is cheap. If I give you an opportunity, will you come back and do something? Mind you, it was 15 years I was in US, everything was perfect, and my mother-in-law was very happy that I was actually in America. So then when he threw me that question, I said yes. And 2 days later, I came back to India with both my children. That it has been one of the biggest learning experiences for me, my children, and also my mother-in-law. That's a different story. But the point I'm trying to get at is, the opportunity that I got was being the first joint director for the electronics department of the government of Telangana, which is a lifetime opportunity. You might be the CEO of so many corporations, but being the part of the growth story of a state is something that a lot of people would not have got. But would I have, thank you. But would I have gotten it if I was sitting on the sidelines saying, someday when I'm ready to move, I'll have an opportunity waiting for me? I'm not saying it is the best decision. My mother-in-law still doesn't agree. My mom still thinks I'm going to go back someday. It's been 6 years, different story. But what I'm trying to get at is grab opportunities. And again, the last and most important thing I'd like to also highlight is, don't peg yourself for things you're not prepared for. Research, study, learn, grow every single day. Because you never know which opportunity will actually come your way and what will actually take you forward. All the things that I spoke about are things I actually learned from the entrepreneurs that I work with. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are from tribal areas in our state, and they live about 6.5, 7 hours from the capital city of Hyderabad, and many of them are from the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. I've learned it from them. I've also learned it from this cancer survivor lady who is 57 years old. She's a 7th grade dropout, and she has a revenue of 4.5 lakh rupees a month in one of the most drought hit parts of my state. And I've also learned all the things that I've actually spoken about from a young engineering graduate who had to leave Hyderabad and go to a tier 2 town because her husband's job had moved there. The reason I'm telling you this is because all these learnings, when you put it up in Google, you will also learn that these are actually exactly the same things that will be written about in Forbes, in Wall Street Journal, in New Yorker, or anything that you can talk about. Why am I telling you this is because beneath the surface, in spite of thinking one country is better than other in terms of, women entrepreneurship, the progress of women, beneath the surface, the challenges of gender are same across the world. I'm honestly telling you this, believe me, because the reason is whatever you can say, the change will not come unless the change starts with us, isn't it? So all the challenges across the world that you talk about women are not particularly for women in India, are not particularly for women in Afghanistan, not particularly for women in US, not particularly for women in, Finland. They are the same problems across the world. So please bear that in mind. And now, most importantly, I would like to highlight again, we are talking about opportunities, right? We are really fortunate to be here. We are really fortunate to be part of a country which actually respects women. Of course, we may slightly disagree. But I'm also really happy that we are also part of a region of India where being a woman is always a privilege rather than a bane. And I hope I hope you guys agree with us, because a lot of times if you see, south of India is so much more progressive than the north of India in terms of enabling the participation of women either in workforce, in education, in any other avenue. If you look at it, the numbers are always higher if you look at it. So what are you guys going to do to make sure that, we will become the change makers that we want everybody else to be? How do we make sure that we create more women leaders among ourselves here? It is very simple. It is actually starting with not other people empowering you, but self-empowerment. The way to empower the society is not by waiting for somebody else to come change it. The change starts with you. The change is already here. So I request and I hope that all of us will understand that there is a world of opportunities that is waiting for us, and there is a wealth of resources that are there to take us forward. And the change will only start by truly being you. And I really hope that all of you will come forward and make sure that, gender conversation that we are having will go beyond equity and equality and will become a norm. So I really wish all of you a lot of luck, and I look forward to having a conversation later again. Thank you.